Edge of Oblivion. Darren moved like a shadow beneath a sky clouded by ash. The remnants of the great blackout had left the world fractured, a mosaic of forgotten enclaves and ghost cities, flickering neon long dead. He walked the cracked highways, boots pounding silent rhythms on broken concrete swallowed by vines and rust. His eyes, sharp and hollow, scanned the ruins of a world that once promised everything and then took it all away. The chip beneath his skin pulsed faintly, a relic of a war that had never truly ended. It was a neural anchor designed to tether soldiers like him to corporate AI command networks. Now it was a weight, a phantom chain to memories he wished to forget. He'd tried to remove it once, but the scars ran deeper than flesh and metal. Ahead, a sign hung crooked on rusted poles. "Welcome to Brighton Haven." The paint peeled like dead skin, the smiley face beneath it defaced with streaks of rust. Darren didn't slow. Haven was a lie. Shelter was a promise that the world no longer kept. The enclave lay empty, buildings hollowed and sunken, their windows shattered like the souls that had once filled them. A wind whispered through the skeleton of streets, carrying ghosts of laughter, fear, and forgotten lives. He passed a makeshift shrine, worn boots lined in a row beneath a cracked visor. The dead had been honored once. Now they were ignored. He settled in the shadow of a collapsed overpass, rifle resting on his lap. Silence pressed close, thick and unyielding, broken only by distant echoes of a world that had moved on. The scream still haunted him. The children caught in crossfire during the war he'd fought, but no longer believed in. Those memories seeped into his dreams like poison. Night drew close, and with it shadows moved. A figure appeared, slender, hooded, carrying a satchel that hummed softly. She stopped when she saw him, calm and unafraid. Her eyes held stories, loss, defiance, hope. "You're far from home," Darren said, voice rough. "Maybe," she replied, "or maybe I'm exactly where I need to be." Her name was Lena. She carried relics, chips salvaged from the Helix vault, a secret trove of memories and data erased by the corporations during the blackout. These fragments could shatter lies, reveal hidden truths buried beneath layers of propaganda and silence. Darren felt the wake of the choice before him: to remain a ghost drifting through ruins, or to ignite a fire that might burn away the darkness. "Let's make sure the world remember," he said. They moved together, shadows against the dying light, bound by the fragile hope that in a world broken by silence, memory was the last revolution. The road ahead was a scar of cracked asphalt and tangled weeds. Darren moved with the quiet determination of a man haunted by ghosts no one else could see. The weight of the chip beneath his skin throbbed with each step, a constant reminder of a past he could never leave behind. His destination was unclear, but the need to move forward was urgent, as if standing still would let the memories drown him. As he crossed the shattered remains of an old overpass, the wind carried a faint scent, smoke mixed with something sweet and acrid, like burning plastic and wilted flowers. He followed it cautiously, slipping through the shadows until he reached a small settlement hidden beneath the collapsed highway. A fragile cluster of makeshift homes surrounded by rusted fences and solar panels patched together from scavenged parts. Two figures emerged to meet him. One was a woman, lean and tough, with eyes like sharpened steel. The other was a man, wiry and scarred, his left arm replaced by a patchwork of synthetic muscle and rusted metal. They studied him silently, weighing the war etched deep into his posture and gaze. "What's your name?" the woman asked, voice low and guarded. "Darren," he replied, voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "Militia?" "Used to be." They didn't ask more, but their eyes told stories of their own, of losses and battles fought in shadows after the Great Blackout. The man gestured him inside, where a small community hummed with cautious life. Children chasing each other in dusty streets, elders trading stories by flickering lanterns, and workshops where scrap was transformed into tools for survival. Darren's boots kicked up dust as he moved past the makeshift garden beds and crude water collectors. The smell of stale sweat and burning grease filled the air, a reminder that even in ruins, life found a way to persist. Later, he met Mira, a woman whose face bore the lines of too many years and too much sorrow. She was a medic, her hands steady even as they mended broken bones and shattered spirits. Mira saw through him, past the scars and the neural chip, to the man who still carried the weight of war. "You're one of the lost," she said quietly, "haunted by things you wish you could forget." Darren nodded, the silence between them thick with unspoken pain. "There's talk," she continued, "a new enclave, trying to rebuild what the corporations and war stole. They call it New Dawn. Maybe it's where you need to be." She handed him a crude map, edges torn and stained with oil and blood. Darren studied it carefully, tracing the route north through wastelands and ruined cities. "Why help me?" he asked. "Because no one gets through this world alone," Mira said. "And maybe we're all looking for someone to remind us why it's worth fighting." At night, under a sky choked with ash and distant stars, Darren sat by a fire and wondered if forgiveness was even possible. The memories clawed at him, orders given, lives lost, the screams of children in the ruins of his mind. Yet the fire warmed him, a fragile ember in the endless dark. He rose before dawn, the map folded carefully in his pack. The path to New Dawn was fraught with danger, but for the first time in years, Darren felt something like purpose. The ruins stretched out before him, a broken landscape of metal and memory. Somewhere in the shattered cities, beyond the fences and forgotten walls, a new world waited. The sun rose weakly behind a veil of smoke, casting long shadows over the twisted metal and crumbled concrete. Darren moved with careful steps, each one echoing faintly in the hollow streets of the abandoned city. Buildings leaned like tired giants, their neon signs flickering faintly, ghosts of a world that had once thrived on light and data, now swallowed by silence and dust. He carried no illusions. New Dawn was a flicker, a fragile hope in a sea of decay. But hope was a dangerous thing, one that could either spark a revolution or burn everything to ash. As he approached the outer walls, guards emerged, silent, vigilant. Their eyes scanned him, searching for threat or truth. Darren raised his hands, showing the map and the faint emblem Mira had told him about. A moment of tension broke with a curt nod. The gates creaked open, revealing a world stitched together from scraps of the past and dreams of the future. Solar panels caught the weak light, gardens grew in raised beds, and people moved with purpose beneath the shadow of broken towers. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of sweat, oil, and the faint hum of generators. Children played near a ramshackle schoolhouse, while elders shared stories under tattered awnings. It was a community clinging to life, building from ruin. Darren was led to a council chamber, an old warehouse converted into a meeting place. A group of figures gathered, faces marked by hardship, but bright with determination. Their leader, a woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much, studied him carefully. "We heard of you," she said, "a soldier lost between wars. What brings you here?" "I'm looking for a chance to make things right," Darren replied. "To find a place where the past doesn't control the future." The council murmured among themselves. One man, his arm replaced by a crude mechanical prosthetic, nodded. "Then you'll find no peace unless you face your ghosts," he said. "We all have them." Days turned into weeks as Darren worked alongside the Enclave, teaching, scavenging, rebuilding. The chip under his skin pulsed with reminders, but he fought to silence it, to focus on the tangible, the cracked soil yielding crops, the repaired water pumps, the steady hands of people refusing to give up. One evening, while repairing a broken transmitter, a faint signal caught his ear, a crackling voice cutting through static. It was coded, deliberate. He traced it through tunnels and dark corridors beneath the city, until he found a hidden room filled with flickering screens and humming servers. Data files flickered, records of war crimes, erased histories, and forbidden knowledge. Darren realized this was more than survival. This was a chance to unmask the lies that had shattered their world. But truth was a double-edged sword. Revealing it could bring hope or destruction. He stood at the crossroads, burdened with the knowledge that every choice carried weight beyond himself. The dawn was coming, and with it the fragile chance to redefine what it meant to live in a world broken by silence. Darren's fingers moved like shadows playing on the flickering screens. The recovered files glowed with cold light in the dark room, memories once erased, names of the vanished, recorded in code. Events buried beneath layers of lies flickered like reflections of a past unwilling to fade. Treasures of oblivion, pulling him into an abyss. The world around him held a silence that preceded a storm. The traces he uncovered were like empty movements in dead quiet, as if the souls of the fallen begged to have their stories told. But truth always came with a price. He clenched the drive containing the truth, a small box heavier than metal and plastic. His heart beat with both dread and a spark of hope. This was a challenge that could either shatter the fragile world of New Dawn or ignite the flames of change. Outside the room, the city breathed, unaware that in the darkness a new threat and a new hope were being born. Darren felt the silence squeeze his chest like a mask, turning air into leaden weight. When he returned to the council meeting, the eyes of others caught every movement. The air was thick with tension, fear and hope entwined in a fragile dance. Some whispered of revolution, others feared losing all they had painstakingly rebuilt. He silently looked at faces, lines etched by time and suffering. Every choice dragged a chain of consequences. How far he was willing to go would decide the future not only for himself, but for all who survived. In the darkness beside him appeared Lena, a shadow who had lit the fire of change within him. Her eyes shone with cold resolve. "It's time," she said without words. Together, they connected to old transmitters, where codes and voices of the past broke through the noise and void. The recovered records spread through the network like poisonous dew, transparent like tears of truth. The world began to awaken in chaos. Bonds holding them in delicate balance started to crack. Old illusions crumbled, but ruins could become foundations again. Darren stood on the rooftop's edge, watching neon lights cut through dust and fog. These were no longer just dying shadows, but signals of a new world awakening. He knew the war was shifting, but it never truly ended. And though the past was heavy, its voice began to rise again, quiet but unwavering. A dawn was born, carrying both pain and hope. The night swallowed the city whole, as Darren stood on the rooftop, the wind carrying whispers of a world fractured but not broken. Below, the flickering neon signs, once fading ghosts, now pulsed with renewed life, tracing fractured patterns across the shattered streets. The data they had unleashed was more than information. It was a spark, a challenge to the silence that had suffocated them since the Great Blackout. In the enclave, fires burned, not just from torches or engines, but from the embers of awakening. Faces marked by hardship turned upward, eyes searching the dark sky, as if seeking answers written in the stars. The weight of forgotten memories now pressed on their shoulders, urging reckoning. Darren felt the chip beneath his skin pulse like a dying heartbeat, a fading tether to a past he both hated and needed. Each throb was a reminder that the war was not over, that the scars carved deep within him mirrored those etched into the world. But the silence was broken. Truth had cracked the facade. He moved through the crowd, his footsteps steady amid the rising chaos. Whispers turned to murmurs, murmurs to voices, voices to chants that echoed between broken walls. The revolution was not the blast of gunfire or the clash of steel. It was the slow burn of remembrance, the quiet defiance of a people refusing to be erased. Some fled into the shadows, fearing the storm they had awakened. Others embraced the fire, knowing that from ashes something new must rise. Lena's hand found his, a fleeting anchor in the turbulent sea. No words passed between them. They didn't need to speak the promise carried in that grasp. The city was alive again, trembling on the edge of transformation. The neon glow, once a hollow echo of lost technology, now danced with possibility. The air vibrated with anticipation, a fragile symphony of hope and despair. Darren gazed toward the horizon, where the first pale light of dawn crept over jagged ruins. The war within him raged still, but somewhere deep beneath the weight of memory, a fragile peace began to take root. In the world shattered by silence, voices rose, fractured but unbroken. The dawn was no longer a distant dream. It was here.